the council meeting Tuesday, the 28th of April, 2026. Welcome to the gallery. Attendance, apologies, and approved leave of absence. Attendance is Councillor Young is absentee. He's had some significant family issues at Perth. He's had to go to Perth quickly, so he'll be a apology. Councillor Beard is with us on Teams. That's that. Declarations of interest. I don't have any declarations of interest being given to me. The councillors, if you find you do have an interest in any of the items that go forward, please don't hesitate to let us know. Stream. I was looking at the live stream as ended. So, is that still going?
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay, right. Public question time. We do have a number of questions that on the previous meeting. Is there, before I get into those previous meeting ones, is there any questions from the public right now?
Just like to inform you and the council that a previous Shire President, Mr. Tom Day, had a stroke the night before last. He's in ICU yesterday. It's 4 o'clock, and there was no further update on it, so it wasn't too good. Anyway, just sort of let council know. The Freeman and the council, and also a previous Shire President.
Thank you for that. I don't think I should say thank you for that.
No, but it was going to get out sooner or later. I thought I'd just do it
Yeah,
formally
yeah,
here, otherwise
yeah.
gossip gets around it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So, yeah, public, is there any questions today? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President, and the Gooch Community Station. Mr. President, the total number of people engaged by the Carnarvon Shire on the 23rd of February 2026. This includes divided into employees, contractors of personal services, and 3 other such like engagements, with these answers to also be subdivided into field staff and administration staff. Question number 2, was the Carnarvon Shire awarded a large financial grant for flood mitigation work to be carried out last financial year, 2024 to 2025, and was this work completed, or did the Shire fail to meet the grant deadline? Question number 3, I'd like to acknowledge Councillor Dudley Maslin and his wife Sue on the wonderful advertisement of Carnarvon that they participated in. But sadly, I cannot say the same for the nationwide media coverage given to some extremely fatuous, overpaid individuals frolicking in the extremely dangerous lead waters of the river, whilst a disaster occurred in the area and with the potential to endanger rescuers. Will the council be encouraging these individuals to attend appropriate training and education at their own expense and time? Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Gooch. I will respond to those 3 questions. The ones with the employees, this follows on from, appears to follow on from your question one at the previous council meeting, which I can give you some figures, but if you want the rest of the information that you're asked for, I can partially answer that by telling you that we're currently employed as of the 23rd of February 2026, there is 89 full-time employees at the Shire of Carnarvon and 22 are grant funded. Amongst those 89 full-time employed, there are, the 89 include full-time, part-time and casual. So they're not all full-time. They're the 89 include part-time and casual. So that only partially answers your question because you wanted that divided into who's on the ground.
Yes,
hands
please,
on
Mr.
work.
President.
And so you,
And also the ones that are under contract for staff agreements, contractors for personal services and
Well-
other such like engagements.
we will take that on, that part of the question on notice. Your second question in relation to, in the last financial year, a flood mitigation grant is what you asked. I'm pretty sure we didn't actually have a flood mitigation grant that we went for. I understand there is a inundation grant out there. After the chart mapping work that was done, there's which is not so much a flood from the land side, it's an inundation from the ocean. But I'm not sure exactly where that is at. So I'll have to take that on notice. You can answer that one. And third one, which was that's under investigation at this point in time.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Gooch.
Should put those answers on those, obviously.
Yeah, so that, but the last one, that's all I can tell you is at the moment, what you asked about is under investigation.
And also I'd like to appreciate what Councillor.
Yeah, I know,
Councillor
yes, yes.
Sue did.
Yeah, I noted.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I'll go to the questions taken on notice from March 26 ordinary council meeting. The question one was from Mr. David Gooch: how many employees are employed by the Carnarvon Shire on the 23rd of February 2026 in the field and in the office, and the total number? Well, we've partially answered that today, and the other figures that requested are on notice. But the actual answer to the way that question was written is there is a total of 3 employees commenced employment with the Shire, comprising 2 field-based employees and 1 field-based employee on the 23rd of February 2026. Question 2, the number of employees employed by the Shire of Carnarvon whose position is fully funded by external grants as of 23rd of February 2026. And that date, a total of 22 employees are employed by the Shire of Carnarvon, and that in positions that are fully funded through external grant programs. Question 3, my question 3 at the last council meeting was not answered satisfactorily, and therefore I will ask again. And please note that I have not asked for any individual's information, just the number of employees that have left the Carnarvon Shire between the 1st of September 2024 and the 23rd of February 2026. In brackets 18 months, have had to sign a non-disclosure document / contract / agreement, and how much money has been paid out by the Shire for these. The response provided at the previous council meeting remains the Shire's position. There is a risk that releasing this type of information may give rise to speculation or assumptions about former employees, which may be inaccurate, and could unfairly impact their reputation and well-being. Accordingly, Shire does not disclose information relating to the number of employees subject to confidentiality provisions, nor any associated financial details beyond what is required through statutory financial reporting and audit processes. All employee separations and any associated payments continue to be managed in accordance with contractual entitlements, applicable legislation, and within the budget adopted by council. Right. Item 4, confirmation and receiving of minutes. We have the minutes of the ordinary council meeting on 24th of March 2026 and the minutes of the special council meeting the 15th of April 2026. Do those together. So could I have a mover that we Councillor Farina. Councillor Kelly, you seconded those. Councillors, is there any debate? There being no debate, that's adopted unanimously. Ma'am, if we can't see you, can you call out aye or nay when we ask for the vote, please?
Yeah, sorry, I can't get my camera to work. Can you hear me?
We can hear you quite well, so
Oh,
that's what I said.
That's good.
If just say aye or nay when
Yeah, all good.
even if I don't call for a vote, if I say, is there any debate? There's no debate. Just give us the A, please.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. And then we have the receiving of the minutes of the 4.3, the minutes of the Audit and Risk and Improvement Committee, 21 of April 2026. Councillor Kelly.
I have a question. Just in respect to that particular item, I'm just seeking clarity from acting CEO that a number of items would be brought to the now May OCM. They've been items 5.1, the Landgate revaluation adjustment, which I assume will be a budget adjustment. 5.2, the policy review status update, so bring the policies to council. And 3, the transition of banking providers. I think that's pertinent, particularly as we do have a lending facility, which I feel council will have to apply the seal to move it across to the new banker. Thank you.
Councillor.
Yes, just to expand on Councillor Kelly's, as per my email update.
Yes.
To administration and the councillors, just a bit of clarification going forward for the benefit of the gallery, ourselves and live stream. So we have the Audit and Risk Committee, but they don't have the delegated authority. So maybe a bit of a request and just a bit of clarification. So when we receive the minutes and we adopt the minutes for those meetings, it's not an actual adoption of the recommendations from the Audit and Risk Committee, I believe. I think perhaps it would be better or more appropriate to bring it into an actual agenda item like Councillor Kelly is saying. So I'm not saying there is, but potentially just look back on the audit risk meetings 2025, 20th of May, 26th August and 16 December. It might be worth reviewing those and seeing if there's anything in those that might come back as well to a agenda item for us to debate. Thank you.
Yes. We have the team seeking confirmation from Waldo process for some of those, and we will get that. Council will be out on that.
I'd say. If someone moves that we accept those, we'll confirm those minutes of the sheet.
Sorry, just clarification, we're receiving.
Receiving the minutes of receiving the minutes of your committee on the 21st of April. Councillor Kelly. Councillor. Mind blank. Once again, is there any debate? Councillor Baird, have you no debate?
No.
Thank you. With that, councillor, that's adopted unanimously. Thank you. Announcements by the president without discussion. Yes, councillors, I think I think we share our condolences the Silovich family, passing of the matriarch of their family. There's someone that has gone a long way to assisting the development of the horticultural industry in Carnarvon. Unfortunately, passed away recently, and yeah, I hope you all share with me that our condolences to their family. The other one which I want to bring up, and I want council to give some thought to this going forward, is that currently we've got a very small cohort of members of our community that are just about driving this town mad. Over the weekend, we had, and the week leading up to the weekend, we had some serious incidents occur, which is reaching the point where I suspect we're going to have people start to take retaliatory action against what's occurring. And unfortunately, I think the victims are going to end up in jail if it keeps going the way it's going. There was a gentleman we managed to stop chasing children in Granbury Drive with an axe in his hand, because he had reached the point he wasn't going to put up with it anymore. It's happening. So I think the damage it's doing to our community, the damage it's doing to the people we want to visit our town, we want the tourists to come here, is significant. So I just want to highlight it right now that I think needs to be brought up at our next corporate information session for discussion, and hopefully something that we may be able to talk to the government about and how we can move forward with it, because we're going to go backwards if we don't do something about it. Thank you. Petitions, presentations, petitions and memorials. We have Telstra Regional Engagement Manager, Ms. Eva, please.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, if I sit here.
Yes.
Thank you, President. Thank you, members. Thank you, Chair, for having me along today. I'm just here to give you an update of what's happening in Telstra and telecommunications at the moment, what might be applicable to your area. So I'll start with a slide. I'll just go. So the demand for data across all of our networks, that includes the fixed network, the mobile network, subsea cables, grows approximately 30% year on year. The traffic across those networks grows 30% year on year. We've got 1,500 mobile sites in WA, and about 950 of them are in regional WA. 15 years ago, the traffic on our mobile network was 99% voice and 1% data. And today that's totally flipped. It's now 1% voice and 99% data. So the traffic and the data growth has been absolutely huge, incremental. And that's why we have to keep modernising our networks and upgrading to keep up with the demand of the huge data that people seem to want. So just zooming into our mobile networks. This is just a bit of a history of our mobile networks. In 1993, we rolled out the 2G network, which closed in 2016. That was a voice and messaging network. In 2005, 2006, we rolled out 3G. That was voice messaging and some really basic data. You could get some basic email from that network. We brought out 4G in 2011, and that was voice messaging, data and video. So that really exploded data and video streaming. A lot more data came across. That's where we saw that real data taking over the voice traffic on our mobile networks. And since 2019, we have rolled out 5G, and you'll see 3-4 different progressions of 5G as the technology has evolved. We've upgraded our networks to keep up with that technology. We're now doing 5G standalone, which is newer technology. Again, it doesn't rely on the 4G network to actually start a call and hold a call. So 5G standalone will bring about lots more capability and capacity in our networks and faster speeds. So 5G keeps evolving, our networks keep evolving, and that's why we have to keep upgrading our towers to make sure that we keep up with the incredible data demand that's happening. This slide just shows that our goal is to sustain our best network and maintain our mobile coverage lead. We've got a real mandate to improve capacity and efficiency. So we're modernising our networks for pretty much capacity in our networks. We're building new tech like the satellite to mobile. We're already working on 6G. We expect 6G to come through in approximately 2026, while maintaining a focus on security and resilience. we've had a lot of discussions about resilience, in particular with the government, you know, when natural disasters come through. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And autonomous networks. So that's bringing AI. So this 5G, the latest, is all about AI networks. And with our Telstra, we're using AI internally, just in our workday stuff. We're using Microsoft Copilot, but they also want to put it into the network so that you get self-healing networks, and they ultimately design themselves. So there's a lot of work in our networks going in using AI as well. And we're reinventing how to capture and create value. So an enterprise or a local government customer or a business customer might say, we want to get a portion of that mobile network and have it dedicated to us. So we're able to slice and dice that network with the new 5G coming through. Okay, so this are a couple of maps. So the first one on the left is the wider Carnarvon local government area. And the second one on the right is just Carnarvon Township itself. You'll see the red and the yellow dots. So all the dots and those things with the triangles, they all represent a different mobile tower that's in the area. All of our mobile towers have 4G on them. And the ones with the yellow have got a 5G layer added to it as well. We are working through transitioning all of our mobile towers to have 5G. In regional areas, we use low band, predominantly low band frequencies. So on 4G, it's on the 700 megahertz band spectrum, and 5G, we use the 850 megahertz band spectrum. The 850 that was used previously for 3G is now being used for 5G. It's because it's got that wide area coverage that regional areas need. And some people say to me, oh, how come we're using the 3G? Does that mean that it's worse? The spectrum provides the coverage and the throughput and the penetration into buildings. So that's why we use that low band in regional areas, because it provides that penetration into buildings and through trees. But the technology that sits on that decides on the capacity and the speed that you get out of the mobile network. Where you see the little triangles, that's the panel antennas that face the different ways, and where you see the dots, that's the 360 Omni antennas. So we're going around, all of those dots will be yellow in good time. You'll see where there might be some blue spots in the town centres. That's because on each tower we layer the different spectrum so that we get more capacity in the town. There's only a finite amount of spectrum, so we have to use that in areas where it really needs that capacity. So in regional areas where it doesn't need the extra capacity, you don't need to layer the mid-band spectrum. So for the 4G, we use the 1200, the 1800, 2600 megahertz band spectrum. We're starting to roll out another spectrum on the 5G as well. So that's how regional networks work. This is our Global Operations Centre. I quite like this picture. It looks like a bit like NASA, where it's got all of our maps and everything at the front. 500 network experts. This centre was built in 1999 and it's in Victoria. All of our mobile sites and all of our fixed infrastructure, everything is back to base alarmed to the Global Operations Centre here. They do 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, monitoring of the network health. So as soon as a mobile tower goes down, the alarms go off here, and all these people start working on, fixes. And because we have been going around upgrading all of our mobile towers, particularly before 3G closed, putting up new modernised antennas, they're able to remotely control those antennas a lot more than the previous ones were. So we're getting a lot better remote control with those modernisation. So as soon as they see a fault or something happening on the network, they start working on it in the background. Often they can fix it pretty quickly before anybody realises. There are times, however, where they can't, and then they will start the process of sending out a tech or sending out someone, if it's a power issue, sending out someone with a generator. So that's where the process starts. Satellite to mobile, I'll just talk a little bit about that. In June last year, Telstra became Australia's first satellite to mobile network provider. It's a partnership with Elon Musk's Starlink. So we have a partnership with Starlink to provide direct to handset mobile connectivity. So that means that when you are outside of our terrestrial mobile footprint, your phone will automatically search for a Starlink service so that it can connect to it, and you can send SMS over that Starlink network. It's complementary connectivity, so it'll never overtake or replace our terrestrial mobile network, because you will never get the speed and capacity out of satellites, the LEO satellites, which are 550 kilometres orbiting above the Earth's surface, as compared to our optic fibre. You'll never get the speed and capacity of that satellite because the messages need to come and go from there. So it is a complementary service, but it is a great service for places where there is no coverage at the moment to fill in that coverage. It's an intermittent service, so the experience of sending the mobile text message isn't as quick as you would normally send and receive a normal text message. There may be a couple of minutes or longer in delay because the text message literally has to go from here 550 kilometres up in the sky to get to the satellite and then back down again. So it will take a little bit of time. You have to have a clear view of the sky, so it can't be done indoors. Your phone will show a little satellite icon. You probably have already seen it. If you go out of mobile coverage, your phone will show a little satellite icon on the top right-hand side to show that SpaceX is available to you. You have to have a compatible mobile device. So it needs to be something not more than 5 or 6 years old. So iPhone 13 and above, Samsung 24 and above, and Google Pixel started to come online as well now. And where are we? It's only text messaging at the moment, so you can't call 000 at the moment. We're working on calls, but it's only text messaging at this time. It's probably a good time to talk about the UOMO. The government has been talking a lot. They campaigned on this when they ran for government about the UOMO, which is the Universal Outdoor Mobile Obligation. So that says that in anywhere in Australia, you can pull your phone out of your pocket and be able to make a call or a text message from anywhere. So that whole service relies on this satellite technology, and we are working on doing voice. So voice isn't there yet. It is only a data text messaging at the moment. But there are no constellations in the sky at the moment that can do voice. So we're still working on the technology, and it's not just Telstra working on it. It's a really complicated kind of long process, because you have to work with, Telstra to make sure that it interworks, the technology interworks with our networks that are on the ground, but it also has to work with Starlink. So we have to work with Starlink themselves. We have to work with Apple and Samsung and all those different phone providers to make that possible. And they don't even know if it's going to be possible on the phones that we have already, or if they're going to have to bring out new phones. So, that's up to the mobile phone manufacturers to actually create the phones or make the existing phones work on that technology. We also have to work with Ericsson, who provide a lot of our devices that we use and the routers that we use on our mobile towers. So there's a lot of different pieces at play to make that all happen. The government wants that to be working by the end of 2027, but there was last week on the Monday, there was a Senate hearing, a Senate inquiry about this service, and all the telcos put forward that it's not going to be ready. The technology is not going to be ready by the end of December 2027. So we're still waiting. They will put out in May a report to let us know what's happening with that, but that's where we're at the moment. So we're working on it. There's a short video that will play for a second, sorry, just to explain what that satellite mobile messaging service is. I should say also that you have to be on a Telstra upfront plan, that it's no cost to the customers to send and receive those SMS. And in the first week and a half of actually putting that service out, there was over 1 million SMSs sent and received in the first week and a half. So the uptake has been huge. It's been bigger than Telstra ever expected, I think, and shows you exactly how much the service was needed. And it can't be you can't get it on a Woolworths or an Aldi or a Belong or one of those. It has to be a Telstra upfront mobile plan. We're just about there.
That's pretty inclusive. At Telstra, we're dedicated to providing service best mobile coverage. Our network covers around 95% of Aussies. That's pretty inclusive, but it comes to where we live. This is where we travel. Working with our partners to develop our satellite messaging service, providing text messaging capability in most outdoor areas that our mobile network doesn't reach. With this new service, when our mobile network is unavailable, compatible phones will automatically look to connect to an available satellite. When connected, text messages can be sent and received. You need a compatible phone, the latest software updates, and a Telstra plan with satellite messaging included. And you'll need to be outdoors with a clear line of sight to the sky. Messages may take a few minutes to send and receive, because they're traveling through space. Currently, this service supports text messages only, so no internet or calls yet, including calls to emergency services. Though we're working with partners to bring more capability in the future, but for now, we're giving text messages the star treatment.
Thank you. We go major incident management, disaster relief. All right, so Telstra's major incident management, we do a lot of work with seasonal preparedness. So we do have a grounds maintenance program to make sure that there is the weeds and stuff around our mobile towers are chopped back to avoid any fire risks. When we do know, for example, if there's a cyclone coming through, we will stand up an emergency team or an incident management team as soon as we know that's happening. That when Cyclone Narelle was coming through, there were about 50 of us on that incident management team. And we look at where are our generators, where are our techs located, have we got everything ready in preparation for this cyclone? We've got 2 emergency services liaison officers that sit in the state emergency centres with DFES and the other emergency services during the emergency times to make sure that as soon as the sites are cleared to go in, our teams can go in and do the response and get the recovery going as fast as possible. And during the event where we've got heightened monitoring from our Global Operations Centre as well. So there's a lot of work that goes into incident management when there is something coming along, when we know that there is an incident coming along. So the network restoration priorities, first and foremost, our core network, we look to get that back up and running, and then service for the agencies that are directly related to the response. So that's DFES, police, emergency, ambulance, hospitals, we get those services up and running, and then communities in isolation, and then to our mobile sites, our exchanges, and then our roadside cabinets. This is the details of our emergency services liaison officers. So if you do need to get in contact with them, there's a national number, and we've also got an email address. We as I said, there's alarm monitored directly, and they're dedicated to our global operations team, the power teams in the global operations contact center, and they look to dispatch a power tech if it's power related. So 90% of the outages that we do have are generally power related. There are those outages on our mobile network that happen because of a failure of equipment. So a cyclone or something can come through, and most of the time we could get that back up and running by setting a generator out there. There are times, and even if it's not a cyclone, where something happens to the technology, something in the mobile towers failed, and they'll have to send a tech out there or order parts. So that's where things take a little bit longer. We have backup batteries at all of our mobile sites. Generally, they are a 12-hour backup battery, and they have a 7-year life cycle replacement program. So each time the backup battery comes on, it slowly depletes, so the hours get less. And after 7 years, all the batteries are replaced in each of our mobile sites. What else do I need to tell you? Site access is controlled by DFAs. So when it's safe to do so, when DFAs tell us we can go in, and that is pretty much it for the moment. And I'm happy to take any questions, any queries that you got. If I can't answer it, then I will make sure I get an answer for you from somewhere else. If you'd like to discuss anything, I'd like to hear. If you've got any major issues here in the region, I'd like to hear about it. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Lily. Very, very informative. Any questions, Kath? No question. We'll jump straight into the next presentation by Tiffany and Liz, who is online.
Hi, everyone. Just making sure you can hear me.
Yep.
Yep. Hi. So there's Tiffany coming on board. Hi, Tiff. Right, so hi, my name's Liz Kelly. It's really lovely to meet you all by video conference today. Kind of wish this meeting was last week because I was in Carnarvon for the week, and it was a great week I had with the staff in the teams there. So it was really lovely to come up and see everyone. So I'm here based in Geraldton, and I'm the Acting Director Strategy Change and Service Development. I've worked for WAX for nearly 20 years now, and all of that time here in the Midwest. So I've visited Carnarvon on a very regular basis in a number of my roles across my time here. So it's really nice to come and meet you all today. You asked for some key points, so I'm going to go through them, and some of them I'm going to target it down to Carnarvon and the Gascoyne, and a bit more broadly into what WAX does across the state. So WAC's key priority for Carnarvon is ensuring that we're delivering high quality, safe and sustainable care as close to home as possible. And workforce is our key issue, as you would understand, and we are actively working on permanently attracting health professionals to the region. But just like every other health service provider in the globe, we are impacted by the shortages of health professionals, and we are doing as much as we can to address those locally in the areas we can. One of the first things that I just want to talk about is our Strengthening Local Health Services reform, which is about us strengthening and contemporising our network of health services and ensuring that each of our districts have local decision making and stronger local connections. A real key part of this at this point in time is the appointment of our new district directors across all of our districts. We have staff commenced in all of these roles across the state to support the reform implementation, and with permanent recruitment to these positions imminently. So last week we welcomed Tiffany Rushton to the Gascoyne as the District Director while this recruitment occurs. Tiffany is also a long-standing senior WAC staff member from our Aged Care Director and is a really welcome addition to our Midwest Gascoyne team, and it's been great to have her come on board. I'm just going to give a very short overview of the Carnarvon Hospital statistics, just so you get an idea of our activity and how we're going. I'm hoping it's of interest to you. Some of it I might not be able to delve very deeply into, but I'll get back and get you some answers. So Carnarvon ED to the end of March this year has just had over 6,800 ED attendances. And it's sort of on track for what we would expect for the year, which is approximately 9,500 attendances, which is what we had in the 24-25 financial year. That's when people present to ED, that's their admission and care and their discharge from ED. We then have inpatient admissions in our beds, and again, we are tracking for just over 2,000 inpatient admissions this year. And again, it's consistent with last year, where we estimate we'll just get to about over 3,000 inpatient admissions for this financial year. Acute bed days are also consistent with just over 3,000 bed days in financial year 24-25. And again, we're tracking to come very much the same to that for 25-26. And those bed days have actually been really consistent since 2022, sort of staying at around that mark. Nullangoon Mire, our aged care facility, as you're all aware of, has consistent high occupancy and a waiting list. And the last I was updated, there is 8 people on that list. People on the waiting list are supported in the community and monitored to ensure their well-being. And our social work team and our nursing team work with people to ensure their care needs are met. And it includes proactive support to plan for their increasing care needs as they come, as well as how we move them into the facility as they require it. Outpatient services, so that's when specialists come to town and people go and see the ophthalmologist or the paediatrician. That's actually where our activity has slightly increased. It was just under 5,000 events last financial year, and it looks like we will get to about 5,500 events this year. And this sort of reflects WA Health's focus on improving access to outpatient services for people across the state. And that's WACS also working with our partners such as Rural Health West and the Metropolitan Health Service providers and private providers to ensure wider access for people in the Gascoyne. If we start thinking about that in a WACS context, WACS across all of WA had 476,178 emergency department presentations across all our sites in the last financial year. We conducted 806,924 outpatient appointments. We helped 39,451 people access the PATS travel scheme, and we attended to 27,607 patients on the elective surgery waiting list, and we conducted over 6,000 surgeries across our state. WACS's mission is a really simple statement, but it's clear in our intent. We are here to deliver and advance high quality care for country WA communities, and we do this by looking at our advancing quality, access and equity, valuing our people, driving excellence and innovation, looking at how we collaborate and form partnerships and community connections, and we really want to be a trusted and sustainable health service across all of WA. So our challenges and opportunities are very similar to all other health services. A real opportunity is our world-leading virtual and digital care with new technology, and we continue to look at how we expand our virtual and technological services to improve healthcare, with our operations hub and command centre in Perth being a one-stop shop for country health professionals to access a range of clinical expertise via technology to make sure that the patients in our services get the care they need when they need it at how they need it. This includes our emergency telehealth services, our inpatient telehealth services, and our acute specialist care, our mental health care telehealth services, and our maternity and obstetrics emergency team. And we work to facilitate and coordinate safe and timely and effective patient transfers out of that command centre. So just like Telstra showed you their picture of their command centre in Victoria, we have one very similar where we track across the state all of our RFDS, ambulance transfers, and how we're tracking and how we're getting people where they need to be. Right, so WACS across the board employs over 13,000 people and 94% of them work in our country locations. But again, you know, we understand in our small towns that we have the shortages impacting our services, and attracting and growing our own skilled and localised workforce is a priority. So you might not be aware, but WACS is now a registered training organisation, and through that we're hoping that we'll be able to deliver training in the region to be able to grow our own workforce so that people who live in country WA can provide healthcare in their own communities. I've talked about our command centre and how that supports our clinician in real time. We also have a range of other services that support professionals coming out to the country and being in the country. We call it the backup program. That's where we provide video conference and phone support to graduate nurses and newly qualified nurses in country. And we deliver a range of graduate programs to support people as they start their career and hopefully encourage them to be here for the long term. We undertake a number of recruitments, including international recruitment, and the public sector employment standards have just recently been updated and enacted on, and will be enacted on the 1st of July, which will enable us to offer permanent employment to international staff without the permanent working rights, or with working rights, but are not yet permanent citizens. We've got a really sustained focus on increasing our housing stock, so both the range and options that we have available for staff, and improving its quality so that we can actually staff our house our staff in the regions and that they feel safe and secure and happy with what they've got. We've also got access to home ownership schemes for staffing, and we do have generous salary sacrificing schemes that enable people to pay mortgages before tax. We have, in the last 18 months, introduced our 24/7 security monitoring system, which supports a number of our sites with an operations centre, ensuring that in our small locations, our staff feel secure and they have backup to get them help when and if they need it. And we're in the early stages of reviewing our workforce strategy, and we're connecting them. We have some connections with the rural university centres, so WACRA, or the WA Centre for Rural Health Research here in the Midwest, to look at our models of care and how we can best use the staff that we've got and make sure that everyone is working fully across their scope of providing services. So you asked me to talk a little bit about service continuity, and I'm sort of got some ideas, but please ask me questions, and Tiffany, and if we can't answer them, we will. But I suppose Carnarvon is definitely a 53-bed facility. 38 of those beds are for residential aged care service provision. It's a 24-hour ED with inpatient care, aged care, maternity, that is non-birthing, as you're aware of, paediatrics, general medicine, mental health, pathology, radiology, sonography, child and family health services, respite care, palliative care, renal dialysis and specialist outpatient services. We're using as many of the options we've got to recruit a permanent workforce into the region, but we also use agency and locums, and we get support out of our regional resource centres, which is a big part of our reform package, where we look at our regional resource centre, in this case Geraldton, and how it can support our smaller sites to ensure service provision. I suppose this is where we really want to be able to partner with our community providers, our shires. We really need to make sure we've got good, clear, open communication channels and other ways of discussing so that we can be prepared when we need to. So for things like emergency situations and other events where we might see an increase in service demand, making sure we're on those local emergency management committees, ensuring that we have got oversight of those community events calendars. And I'll go a little bit into our winter strategy that we're doing this year across all of the health service providers, because that's about ensuring that people get the care when they need it and we're not blocked. So WACS is undertaking preparations across the board to ensure that we can meet the demand winter places on our services. We have a winter commander and a deputy winter commander, and they are beginning their process of monitoring activity in live time across our services to make sure that we can take system-wide actions to address our peaks and ensure access to care for our community. And I just wanted to take this small moment to plug flu vaccinations. Flu vaccinations is one of the ways over winter that we can really all do our part in making sure that we're prepared for winter. Flu vaccination clinics will be available. The GPs will be providing them as well, and I'd encourage you to talk about flu vaccinations with the community and the GP and how you can make sure everyone's got access to them. But we also will be providing flu vaccinations from the 1st of May. And for young children, for the first time, there will be, from the ages 0 to 12, we'll have access to FluMist. It's an intranasal influenza vaccination without the need for them to have a needle. And I encourage anyone who can take up the opportunity to have their flu vaccination to do it. It is the best way to prevent flu and protect other vulnerable people in the community, such as people with immunity illnesses, undergoing cancer treatments, renal dialysis, transplant recipients, and the very young. It is a really key part of our winter strategy across WACS and across the state. And so I'm really hoping that I get to promote that a little bit to you all. I think I've covered most of the trends and issues and concerns that we've got. We definitely have difficulties recruiting and retaining clinical staff in our regions, and housing impacts our availability, impacts our ability to attract staff on a permanent basis. We are using agency and short-term workforce solutions for service continuity, but we are doing all sorts of pool and other sorts of recruitment activities, including international recruitment, to get people here. Those pressures are not just in maternity services, but across medical, nursing and allied health. And while it is prioritised our recruitment and retention, we're aiming to be as agile as we can and as innovative as we can to better meet the needs of our community. And finally, again, our health maternity progress. So we do have antenatal and postnatal care available and is supported by our maternity obstetrics emergency telehealth service. We do have midwives now employed, and they are supporting pregnant women in the Gascoyne, ensuring they're well communicated with and they have all their care needs met in the pre and postnatal periods. What we really need to do is find specialist obstetrics and anaesthetic care, and that can be either GP proceduralists in those places or specialists, but this is really needed 24/7 to recommence birthing services. And I'm not sure if you've ever noted it, but there's significant problems across all of Australia in attracting those people. When we talk about GP proceduralists, there's shortages even here in Geraldton in terms of the speaking with one of the GP providers here. They are also finding it very difficult to find GP obstetricians and GP anaesthetics who are able to come to the country, and there seems to be less and less of GPs going into that space. So it is something that we work on and work with our GPs to try and provide. We will continue our recruitment efforts to provide the medical and midwifery workforce that meet requirements for safe and sustainable birthing in Carnarvon, but our priority also has to be the safety and health and the well-being of women in our community. And without that service, it's not safe and sustainable for us to open birthing services, and we want to make sure that every person who has a baby has the best outcome possible. And that's why our PATS, our patient assisted travel scheme, and we have additional travel support and support for pregnant women in Carnarvon so that they can access the care they need. Unfortunately, not in Carnarvon yet, but hopefully as soon as we can get those staff on board. So that's the end of my presentation. Open to questions, see what I can do, see how Tiffany and I go, being that's Tiffany's first week in the job too.
Thanks very much, Liz. Very, very, very informative. The councillors, any questions? Councillor Baxter.
Thank you very much for that presentation. It was informative, it is informative. But all it gets back to is the political incompetence of our political masters for the last 50 years. That's why we're like this, because I was born and bred here in a tin shed, born in a tin shed here. And I've seen this hospital go up to a point where we had a resident surgeon, anaesthetist, radiologist, etc., 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 down to now where it's all locums. I went to Geraldton the other day just to get a minor procedure, which is a blood test. They're having the same trouble. And you mentioned that, and I understand it. So we're all victims of the same problem, you and us as communities outside. There's a minor thing though, or it might be a minor thing, but living in a community, I've had to go to the hospital here 5 times the last 5 months just to get a blood test once a month. And the entrance into the hospital here would be dirtier than the entrance to the Woolworths. It's absolutely bloody disgraceful. The gardens that used to be there, God knows when, were quite nice and obviously cost a lot of money to put out there. I don't think they've seen water since it last rained, and it hasn't rained here since it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. So I think that we could probably look at our assets. We have great facilities, great people, great everything else, but there just seems to be a breakdown in the support and the carry-on. And they're only relatively minor things, but for a community, they're major things. So I just ask you to see if you can get someone to clean up the entry to the bloody hospital and probably pull the garden out if there's no one competent enough to put those in. So thank you very much.
No worries. Certainly, WACS is very receptive to feedback from all staff, and it's not feedback that we haven't heard on other occasions. Certainly maintaining staff across all of the positions, including our support services, is a challenge these days, which is not an excuse, but we will take that back on board. We'll have a look at it. We'll talk with our support services team and we'll see what we can action. Tiffany, is there any?
Just to add, I have actually spoken to the support services staff this morning about that issue, so we'll definitely see what we can do and happy to report back to the council.
Thank you. Oh, well, nobody else? Ladies first.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, so when you refer to services in the Gascoyne, what townships are you actually referring to?
For us, the Gascoyne district goes Exmouth, Coral Bay, Shark Bay, Burrangurra and Carnarvon. And we did have visiting services, or RFDS visits the Gascoyne Junction, but we can support them as required. And that is our Gascoyne area.
The other thing is that in our community, there's a fair bit of feedback on the payment times it takes for the PATS payments to be paid to people, especially travelling for maternity services. Is there a process to look at to improving the payment times, or is there support for those people accessing that service?
Yeah, the Strengthening Local Health Reform will look at PATS and how we can make sure across all of WACS it's consistent and our payment times improves and all those types of things. Locally, we know that we do have a backlog of payments that need to be made. Of late, we've put on some additional staffing to move through those backlogs and get back on top of that workload. And we acknowledge that for people that's not, it's not been good enough to get their funding when they've got it. And we're actively looking at that in terms of making sure we've got the staff there and moving through the process. For those people that need assistance now, encourage them to get back in contact with us. And if they're not happy with their response, they can escalate that into our complaints email address, or they'd be more than welcome to just phone and ask to speak to the manager. If we can help them out, we will.
I get questioned a lot on the aged facility up there, and at the moment you're on a wait list of 8. What level does that have to get to before they'll consider extending that aged facility or completing the aged facility?
I mean,
how long's a piece of string?
Yeah, how long is a piece of string?
Yeah,
I suppose it is, Carnarvon, and Tiffany is there, so she might be able to help me with the MPS type funding, but there is MPS funding for Carnarvon, and we can look at how we can flex up and down our beds, where we can use our hospital beds that we do have a little bit more in supply in Carnarvon Hospital than we do in other places to help people as we transition them into the services. At this stage, it would be advocacy from our behalf to look at funding for additional beds and things like that in terms of permanently building them. But there is some planning that was done as part of it on how we would expand it and those sorts of things, but at this stage, no funding for that.
So a bit of advocacy may help.
So certainly community advocacy would always help. And given that aged care is the remit of the Commonwealth Government, we do keep a really active eye on Commonwealth grants that might be available for infrastructure. The Commonwealth are really aware of the lack of aged care places and the flow-on effect to our hospitals when you have people, when you look at ambulance ramping, that is often a flow-on effect of people who can't get into a residential aged care bed and are stuck in hospital. You only need to look at the ABC in the last few months to know that that's an issue. So we work really closely with the Commonwealth to look at where we could get some potential funding for that infrastructure. Given that I'm sure you're well aware the cost of building in communities that are remote like this is a real challenge, but we do recognise the need.
But of course, the birthing services is one that I'm constantly hearing about, and it's a funny thing. From the birthing service through to the aged, it's almost like there's people leaving the town because they're too old and they can't get into the aged system. Or there's people leaving town because they don't want to be separated while they're going through one of the most important parts of their lives, having children. So our town is losing the young and it's losing the old, and families are being torn apart. So it's how far do we go before we end up with totally disjointed families? And that's all we've got in the town. It's very hard for a town to develop if it can't keep families in the town. That's the entire family. It's a little bit frustrating, and I don't know whether we can put a bit of pressure on ministers for health at federal and state level in that area, and if it would help at all. Interested in your thoughts on that one.
I think in terms of maternity services, it goes back to Liz's point that you have to be able to deliver a service safely.
Yeah.
And that requires a 24 level of staffing.
Yeah.
So when we look at communities like this, anything we can do for a joined up approach to recruitment, housing, all of those things that stand in our way, recruiting people permanently to these towns, we're very happy to have collaborative conversations. I think health and police and local government being siloed in those conversations isn't helpful. It's probably how we've always operated things. So very keen for anybody's ideas for collaboration that can improve that recruitment, how we can attract those specialist services to towns, because that is the barrier, certainly, to that obstetric service.
It certainly is. And look, you know, maternity service is such a vital part of small communities and keeping people there and growing and making communities vibrant and valuable places. So it's our commitment to get the service back up and running, and it'll never not be our commitment to do that. You know, we're certainly looking at, you know, we've had discussions with people like Rural Health West and all those sorts of things about how we get people in. And across WACS, we are looking at different workforce models, including things like fly in, fly out, or rotational models that we might be able to get staff. I know in Derby we have a trial where we're looking at a fly in, fly out maternity midwifery model. So we are looking at those and how we can then scale them up and bring them across the board. But, you know, that those things have to be trialled and worked with the unions, and how we make those employment type arrangements work for communities as well are important. Certainly in terms of the feedback that we get about Carnarvon and things like that is sometimes the access to childcare is a real barrier for our staff in terms of participating in the workforce. And those are things that we don't have a remit for, but understand that they are really important to communities and delivering services. And again, you know, as our virtual and video conference and telehealth models go, you know, there might be certainly things in the future that come out of them where we can look at other options. But in terms of community advocacy and those sorts of things, you know, we're always appreciative of them in the form they come. And we, you know, coming from a small farming community myself, you know, we definitely need services in town to keep families together, and that's our priority. It's finding the people to do it that's been very challenging.
But yeah, thanks, Liz. And I understand there's a shortage of obstetrics qualified anaesthetists, and they don't train too many every year. So
yeah, and the training options are still there, but in terms of that, the GP, you know, GPs are also, as a workforce, undergoing change and how they run their models of care and services and businesses. So we are seeing less and less of those GP obstetrics and those GP anaesthetist proceduralists that would have in the past made a huge difference to the country workforce, because this is where they predominantly worked.
yeah, it's how to attract them again.
On that, do you have any models that you're working currently with other shires or districts in WA in regards to they coming together with a local authority, or to say, right, hey, here's a nice area, we'll do a nice house on the canals or waterfront or something, and yeah, it's got a complimentary, you know, 25-foot Bertram parked up the driveway, and so someone who's willing to rough it in the outback, and yeah, here's some extras on the side. Once you can come in here and open up our maternity and anaesthetists, whatever. Surely there'd be a few of them that want to get out of the rat race.
Yeah, but look, there is a home ownership scheme that the government have that's very open to specialists. It's actually very targeted at medical workforce, where they are able to access some funding to purchase housing in the regions. It's there, it's available, and we promote it to staff, and I can certainly help with providing you with some more information about HOS, or the housing office and things. Everything's got an acronym, but yes. I haven't looked at it for a while, and I probably should have before. There is, WACS has done some call outs in terms of the fact that they would look with developers about coming into commitments for housing in rural areas. And so I'll see what I can track down about that and send it to you as well, in terms of the fact that that is very useful for us in terms of having quality housing stock available to us. Certainly in the Gascoyne, we've prioritised making sure that the housing that we do acquire through the private rental market has the security systems that ensure that staff feel safe. So, and also making sure that we assist with that. So we provide cameras to staff, we support things with locks and all those types of things. And we work with the tenant, the homeowners and things like that for security screens and gates and all those types of things. As well as just generally trying to make sure that we do have a bit larger housing team than we've had for a long time. And that's sort of looking at auditing of the housing stock and maintaining it and those sorts of things. So we have got a couple of schemes that are sort of what you're talking about, and I'll get you some more information about that.
Any other questions, councillors?
Yeah.
Can I ask one quick, sorry, my camera's not working.
Of course.
Okay. Thanks, Liz and Tiffany. It's very informative. I just want to ask, in terms of the overall infrastructure, is there an ongoing maintenance plan? I often get people asking about, you know, the rusty air conditioners, or is there plans, or is there a maintenance schedule over the next little while to upgrade or continue to upgrade what we've already got? And secondly, I think some of the confusion around the aged care as well with people is that vacant block next door, when they built the original aged care beds, was always mooted to be the next stage. So I think that there is an expectation amongst some people that that's what that is for. So I'm not sure if you have any more information on what longer term plans might be around that space.
Yep. Look, we do have a very rigorous maintenance program across WACS. At times, everything's got to be prioritised across the state about where we allocate funding and what our emerging needs are versus our regular maintenance. We have really focused on improving our maintenance scheduling and making sure that we're on top of those things. But of course, we're, you know, there are things that we might not always get to, and we are open to feedback about those things that are probably bothering the community and how we might be able to look at addressing those. So we're open to that feedback and very happy to receive it and see what we can do. And in terms of long-term planning for the sites, yes, there's, you know, all our sites have long-term plans about what they would and wouldn't look like as services expand or decrease, or, you know, service demand fluctuates. At this stage, just like Tiffany said, we continue to work with the Commonwealth to look at what priorities are across all of our services, and where we can increase beds, we will look to do so. But at this stage, there is no firm plan in place to look at developing additional aged care facility at the site. But again, as needs grow and move, you know, we will always be looking at how we best meet the needs of the community and where we can make advocacy efforts with the Commonwealth to increase our beds.
Thank
you. Okay, thank you.
Right. Well, thank you for having us. And again, that I just reiterate that point. You know, we really do want to start making sure that we've got really open and clear communications with you and the new district directors that we're bringing on as part of our reform. So it's really great to be able to come today and talk to you all and hear questions, and we'll take those bits of feedback on and see what we go to from there. And yeah, welcome Tiffany to the Gascoigne for some months. It's really great to have her here for when she's here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz.
Welcome. Councillors. Do a bit of work. Item 7.1. Status of council decisions for April 2026. I move that. Councillor, do you have a question?
Mr. President, to the acting CEO, for the May CIS, is it possible to get an update on the progress of the Bibberora Bore partnership and lease? And also, we haven't heard much about the blowholes since November last year. So probably worthwhile in my view to bring that to CIS. Does council need to form a motion around that or?
So overall, we'll go to the May CIS, and I believe that the update for blowholes was meant to go to council at the April CIS, but also with the works and we've had losses on.
So there is a, on the blow, because I was going to ask the same question on the blowholes one.
Yes,
There is an update, is there?
there is, because of the report due to come back to council in April, but obviously with what we've had going on in the last few weeks, it's been good. That together.
You? Excellent. So, councillor Scott, the mover of that motion, please.
Ask the question as well. We also as the president alluded to at the start of the meeting, there was questions from Mr. Gooch about the grant, the inundation grant we got. And he mentioned he wasn't too sure where we were at with that. Could we also have that included in the next CIS?
Yes.
It's
If you like this. Thank you, councillor Kelly. Seconder, please. Councillor Burke. Is there any debate, councillors? Being no debate, that's adopted unanimously. Thank you. Men? Sorry, councillor Baird,
Yep.
did you, A? Yes.
Yes.
Aye. Thank you. That's 7-0. Item 7.1.2, actions performed under delegated authority for the months of March and April. Once again, do I have a vote, please? Councillor Skander. Councillor Florina, seconding. Councillors, is there any debate, discussion, questions? Being the case, that's adopted unanimously. Item 7.1.3, delegation of authority, issue and revocation of building. Over, please, councillor Kelly. Councillor Maslin, second of that. Councillors, is there any debate, questions? Being no debate or questions, that's adopted unanimously, 7-0, thank you. Item 7.1.4, review of the horticultural tip amnesty. Over, please. Councillor Farina. Councillor Kelly, seconded, thank you. Councillors, again, is there any debate, questions or discussion?
I mean, I think the issue from councillor Farina on a couple of times now. Fortunately, the uptake wasn't that great, you know. I think that potentially the process might have been a little bit too onerous in terms of coming in physically to the office, applying, having to get the passes and limited time to use passes, etc. So want to emphasise council going forward in the budgeting process and day-to-day operations that we consider issuing passes, however many days per year. I think if it's done around that break timing, issue with rates and administration point of view, and not having to have, you know, meetings about amnesties and things, it would probably be more streamlined and allowing that flexibility for that industry to be able to go in and suits them because of the seasonality of their operations, and weather and things. So it's something to consider. I'm not saying it's given, obviously, but yeah, something for us to. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Councillors. Catch up on something. Is there any debate? There being no debate, let's adopt it unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.1.5, award of tender for the RS10 call 2025. Amelia Linden Road grid plate. Councillor B. Maslow. Second, please, councillor Kelly. Councillors,
Second, one second.
oh, I saw councillor Kelly's hand up.
Sorry, second, sorry, I didn't, sorry, I saw you moved, sorry.
That's all right. Fine. So councillors, once again, is there any debate or questions? Adopted unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.2.1, monthly financial report. Leader, please.
See, Shruti. We used to have a current ratio published. Also could work out the current ratio. It would take you a long time, given that there's certain, current assets or current liabilities aren't used in the calculation. It's just a ready snapshot for council to get a gauge of where our cash position is. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll
Move the motion. Thank you, councillor Kelly. Seconder, please, councillor Farina. Is there any debate, councillors? Adopted unanimously, thank you. Item 7.270, item 7.2.2. Accounts paid under delegation. Councillor Dudley. Seconder, please, councillor Farina. Is there any debate, councillors? Being no debate, that's adopted unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.3.1. Shire of Carnarvon Local Planning Scheme Amendment 14 short-term legal. This one's by absolute majority. It's quite a lot. There's only the one single one. Councillors, do I have a mover, please? Councillor Kelly. Second. Councillor Dave Maslin. Councillors, is there any debate or questions? Being no debate or questions, that's defeated unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.3.2, the Coral Bay Precinct Structure Plan, Unity Engagement Plan. Move it, please, councillor E. Maslow. Second, please, councillor Skender. Any debate or questions, councillors?
The absence of Councillor Young. In here to support the development of the Coral Bay precinct structure plan, just like to emphasise the administration just engage and liaise with the councillor and his Coral Bay Progress Association up there as much as possible. In regards to this, they are fighting a group and be very constructive. So I haven't seen any emails or heard from Councillor Young in regards to this, so I'm assuming that
Yeah, I suspect there's been a fair bit of consultation already between Shire staff and councillor Young, so, which is probably why we haven't heard from him, which is great. Very good. So, councillors, is there any debate on that? There being no debate, that's adopted unanimously. So, well, thank you. Award of item 3.3, award of tender RFT 01/20/2016 Belgian Park Stage 1 landscape and construction. So, move it, please. Second, please. Councillor Ferreira. Councillors, is there any debate? Questions?
And I've got advanced, Mr. President. Came in a bit late on this. But on a recorded in the Shire, having been reticent about this program back 3 years ago when it was first mooted. And a lot of water's gone on the bridge and it's no good shouting about it now. But I just would like it recorded that I have grave concerns about the siting of the particular setup. It's on a major intersection coming into town, in fact, the major intersection probably, with the shopping centre on one corner. And other places, the Dolly's and that across the road and the medical centre. There's residences on the north side. There's no parking, so I've seen in the plan. That was the whole of my time here. I don't know if it's changed in recent years. That was a compensating sump. On Van Onion Park. In other words, the water that came out of the street before the redoing of the street used to be pumped or moved into that swamp there and then pumped out in the scene. Now, I don't know whether that's still a compensating sump or not. Perhaps it's not. Maybe it's all been changed. But what I'm getting at, I can't find anywhere that convinces me that that is the place where we should have this particular development. I believe that it's going to be a pain in the backside for councillors way after I'm gone and councils because of all that. The 3 main things I put is siting where it is. In fact, it's a heavy traffic area. There's no parking for people to use it, except on the residential side, and even that's very limited. And it's just, I mean, we've got the waterfront for crying out loud. I mean, I don't know who thought of this, but it's got through under the guard, and I'm just really not going to talk against it because it's bloody happening. But I just want to make sure I'm recorded of expressing my concerns about this going in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Dudley Maslin. Sure, there are those that share your concerns.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Many of the same reasons. One thing I will say is we have been asking for some time to get whole of life projected costs on items like these. Haven't seen anything like that yet, and I'm hopeful that we may be able to be provided with that going forward because we do need to have some sort of budget for that going forward.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm saying you're speaking against the motion there, councillor. I'm putting forward you spoke against the motion.
Thank you very much.
Any speakers for the motion? Any further speakers against the motion? Councillor, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That is adopted. It's one. Yes, thank you. Item 7.3.4, the Gascoyne Regional Arts Plan. Move it, please. Councillor Kelly. Councillor Skinner, thank you.
Yes, I'd like to speak to that, if I may, Mr. President. I did speak about this at the agenda briefing. This is a fantastic body of work, fundamentally across all the local government authorities in the Gascoyne. The depth of public consultation and subject matter consultation was outstanding at more than 300 people input for it. And if we recall when this originally came up some years ago, that these sort of plans are the gateway to other funding sources. Without a plan, we're pretty much pushing it uphill with a very blunt pencil. But with this, hopefully we can add to the vibrancy of our town and the region and participate in joint ventures, etc. I would recommend or commend to my councillors that we approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Kelly. Are there any speakers against the motion? Any further speakers for the motion? With the, just on item 2, it supports the Shire of Carnarvon to actively use the document to leverage resources and attract funding, which I take it would be grants. Yeah. Is there any chance we could have that grant, any recognised grant brought back to us so we're on top of it quite quickly? Because at times we're getting grants brought to us after the fact, almost. In fact, after the fact. Yeah, there was a list of grants schedules.
Yes, there's from the time constraints, it's not always easy to get that through. Then I think the existing grant policy that we had, there were specific guidelines in there as to how we could apply for that and how council. So as per Councillor Skender's recommendation, he would like that review.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Do that for the workshops.
Yeah.
Guidelines.
As per that list, because there was a $5 million budget application as well. Like for council, nothing there. Till you saw that list.
Just the board can risk like that agenda item, receive that on there. So I think that it would be possible if there's any February ARC meeting.
Studying it in the February ARC meeting, we recommended that we be a staggered approach for those policies. So this is the first lot of policies to be reviewed. We've bring those policies that are going to be reviewed and ARC to a CIS, just so we can have a bit of heads up on what yeah, that'd be great, just to potentially workshop, ask questions before it goes to the ARC.
Speakers, any speakers against the motion? Any further speakers for the motion? No. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 7.4 infrastructure services. There is nil applications for leave of absence. Anybody need a leave of absence? Nil. Motions of which previous notice has been given. Nil. Questions from members without notice. Any questions from members?
But to just acknowledge the recent natural disaster, you call it Cyclone Narelle. Shout out to the prime producers out there, effectively caught 4 natural disasters in less than 3 months. But mostly I would like to thank the volunteers, SES, and of course we had DFS here, but also acknowledge the effort of the staff, the Shire staff that were pretty much on 24/7, prior and post cyclone. Special shout out to Jamie Bone, and off the ladder here, Jasper. I've just had a bit of a blank there. All I can think of is that meme you guys hang out of the helicopter. That's all I can see. But thank you for your efforts, above and beyond. And again, cheers and community spirit through post cyclone. So thank you all.
Thank you, Councillor Maslin. Appreciate it. If you I'll do that. But it doesn't matter. It's even more like working up. Councillor Beard?
Oh, thank you. I just want to reiterate what Councillor Maslin just spoke about. I wholeheartedly want to thank everyone and congratulate everyone. What I'd like to just mention is that I think people would acknowledge that the town is not busy at the moment. I've had a number of people contact me really concerned about how we get people back into town. And Mr. President, you touched on that earlier today, where you mentioned about the issues that we have in town at the moment. That is not helping either. But I think if anyone's wandered around town, they'll notice that a lot of the caravan parks have been particularly quiet. And there is a bit of hesitancy around how people will get through the season. So I think we need to put this on the CIS for the next meeting to discuss in terms of how we might work with different agencies and organisations to actually stimulate some spend amongst the local businesses, because it hasn't actually been a good time for the tourism industry. And I think the Cyclone Narelle and the fuel has all contributed to that. But I think from where I sit, I can definitely see that it's the quietest we've been in a very, very long time. Thank you.
Yes, it definitely is. Thank you, Councillor Beard. And I think it's, as I said earlier at the start of the meeting, I think there's a number of issues that are impacting the town right now. We need to discuss at length on how we may be able to overcome those issues that are impacting the viability of the town. I think matters for which the meeting will be closed to members of the public. There is nil. Date of the next meeting is 28th, and that will be in Coral Bay. With that, I'll close the meeting. Thank you, councillors.
Last question, just building on what the ladies from Wax,
Yep.
that talked about the advocacy, is that something